So talk to me about the problems you're trying to fix with Axia.
Yeah, it's good segue for this. So, like for people that don't know, like Axia is kind of a source to pay software that connects to the ERP of manufacturer to help them structure the exchange of information between like the buyers and the supplier. So, in manufacturing, actually getting something bought is kind of complicated, right? Because especially like in aerospace kind of supply chain, because there's a lot of back and forth with the supplier because they know the stuff and they are the one that are building it, right? And then there's a lot of people involved. There's the engineering team, there's the operation teams, there's the procurement folks, there's the legal, there's like the supplier on their side, there's other people. So the amount of back and forth is crazy high, right? And back in the day when we were looking at this problem, I realized early on that like it has nothing to do with manufacturing, really, right? It has everything to do with the data and how it is transferred and like exchanged. And there was really no good medium to transfer this information in a structured way that makes sense. So, like, what happened is that anything that was developed or already in use end up not working too much. So, like, everybody was falling back down to like the most simple common denominator, which is email and Excel spreadsheet. Um, Not because they're dumb, just because like it's just so hard and you have to have a lot of flexibility. So we went on and we built something like custom for like this specific industry. So for manufacturing, like direct spend, things that are complicated, and this stuff can just connect to a ERP, and we get the information, we can feed it back in, and it structured the whole thing. And by securing this flow of information, we're then able to add like all of the AI kind of elements to it to automatize and simplify the flow. So it's not like AI agent that we slapped on the problem. There's a big pipe that we like built up over the years that is doing a lot of heavy lifting that then allows us to do all of this stuff. And interestingly, this whole thing started um, with Airbus, actually, the A220 in Mirabel, which was before Bombardier. So we saw a lot of Bombardier stuff still in there. But the whole thing started because they needed help with something related to procurement. And we realized that like at the time we were building like something, we realized that what we were building was very conductive to like transfer this information. And then we learned a lot about like this complexity. And then we were able to make a good like proof of concept with that. But it at the start, we were like duct taping it with like our folks that were doing stuff manually, but with the software, right? And at some point, the software was good enough that it was doing all by itself. Um, yeah, and then this is what we're selling then with to all of the different client that we have.
I love this. It makes so much sense to me. But you know
Yeah,
what? If I'm a small company and you present me your solution, it's a no-brainer because the chaos and everything that happening with the back and forth with suppliers, and a lot of companies, I mean, people are surprised once they leave university that the real world is not
oh,
the
it's
same
messy.
as what you learn in
It's
university.
messy.
It's very messy, and you mentioned it correctly. A lot of Excel usage, because sometimes that's just the best solution at hand. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because if you go to larger companies, they usually trust bigger companies or bigger
Yeah.
software. So I'm wondering, was it an obstacle for you to be able to integrate in the infrastructure of companies, given that they were already used to, the big tech companies? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how would you build a name for yourself and say, you know what, they're great, but we're an add-on that they don't provide or they don't really help. So was that a
That's a
challenge
very
or?
good. Like at first, we didn't go there because of that. We were like, hey, Ariba already exists. Why the heck we gonna do that? If you look at ERP provider, they have a RFQ, a PO module. Like this should be good. Like none of them actually work. And even Ariba, it's good for like a specific, like very long term flow. But like what the people, the buyers are actually like need to do day to day, they can't use that stuff, right? So the team we were working with were like, yeah, we have Ariba, but we don't use it. And we're like, why? And then we digged and we realized that like it's not flexible enough and it's not like nimble enough for the supplier also to be involved. So a big thing that we realize is that it's a very hard problem actually. Like in retrospect, like I don't know if I would have gone into this knowing how hard it would be, because in order to make this work, you have to be very thoughtful about what you do. You don't just have one customer, right? Like I don't know if you're selling I don't know, a ERP or like a CRM, right? You're talking to a customer and that's it. In this specific case, even if I don't know, you sell it to Siemens or like Airbus, they have suppliers, and the suppliers are not just like, we're going to do whatever you want because we want the money. It's more of like if we don't want this thing, we are not going to make it, right? Literally. Like if we feel at any point threatened by this tool, or there's no benefit for you, we're going to go back to email. And guess what? If they go back to email, what happened? The buyers then go back to email, and then your tool is out of the window, right? So this part was very difficult, and we did a lot of like engineering, right, with the supplier to make sure that they have some benefit and that they have as low friction as possible, so they can literally just answer by email the stuff that we send them, which is sent on the behalf of the buyer. And then like we're gonna take care of like structuring it for them, and then we give them like a lot of the tools in order for their job to be easier. So we give them a reminder like, hey, by the way, this is the PO, watch out for this, did you have an update on that. So it structured them a bit, and then they can go and have like a portal if they want to kind of like input their information easier, and then just go at it faster. And up to the point that like if they have multiple buyers that are using Axia for them, they can see all of it in the same screen, and then just go from one RFQ to another, or like stuff like that. And all free for the supplier, right? So by structuring the problem set like this, we're able to capture the most vital like stream of information, which is like actually the supplier responding, giving you your stuff. If they don't want to respond, like you can have the best tool for buyer, right? You don't have the information, right? So this is the pipe that I was talking about. And this, honestly, if somebody wanted to replicate a software like this, it would be crazy hard, right? The other layer that we've done that was super clever in retrospect. It was not my idea, by the way. It was my co-founder Nick idea. Was to connect directly to the ERP, right, and become a partner of the ERP. Not just like, hey, we can do connection here, like literally be a partner of this specific ERP, because then you cut a lot of the hey, the ERP has an RFQ module. It's like, yeah, we are the partner for this RFQ module, right? So it's good. So
Was that difficult? Was that a difficult
uh,
challenge?
to do the partnership, not that much, because then like you like they're very happy about it, because like, okay, like there's another source of revenue for them. You're able to provide something to their users that they like have been screaming for it, but they can't do it because it's super duper hard, right? So we take this load and we take all of the stuff that they don't want to do, because that ERP doesn't want to care to for non-customers, if you think about it, right? Like, why should they care about your suppliers?
Suppliers. Mm.
Like at this point, like what are they like? Are they like are they my customers? Do I have to make them pay? If I don't have to make them pay, why should I build this feature versus this other feature that they ask for me? So it's a very awkward position, but us taking this part in the ecosystem is very natural for them. So they're very happy, and they're like, okay, show me your stuff, and then we show them our stuff, and we show them their stuff, and then we show the customer that we have that already have the ERP, and like we're already integrated, right? We did this way, and they're like, well, fantastic. And then like we go through, and then we're able to literally make the connection with the ERP provider, which unlocked this application for like everybody else, right? That have the same ERP. So then we can do a lot of stuff also on the sales and marketing side, which is like co-events. We can do webinar with them. We can, in the sales process, we can mention that we're ERP provider. So their tech team is like, yeah, perfect. IT team is like, check mark. And security side, like the ERP has vetted these guys, and they're already connected. So there's no issue for us. You can go, and then we can move to the sales process a bit faster. But that's the shape of a system like this, right? This is really what you need to be able to do, which is not easy at all.
Right. ERP systems are good at covering everything, but they're not great at everything they cover, which gives
Yeah.
room for startups like yours to come in and partner with them. Yacine, thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I can see how much time you've invested in just these 20 minutes. I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So again, thanks for doing this. It was super fun, and I'll be watching. I'll be watching you guys grow.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you for having me here.